They ask what you'd call a man who steals from a dying woman while pretending to love her. Thief, con artist, predator. But you want to know what I call him, Captain Mitchell? I call him the stepfather who thought a house fire would destroy the evidence. Instead, it exposed everything he'd been hiding for 3 years. Everyone thinks this story is about inheritance and greed, but that's not where this fire started. The real fire started the day Richard Thornton married my mother and began systematically erasing me from her life. And it ended when his own desperation burned down the lies he'd built. If you've ever watched someone steal from your family while pretending to care, you'll understand this story. Subscribe and comment where you're watching from. They ask what you'd call a man who steals from a dying woman while pretending to love her. Thief, con artist, predator. But you want to know what I call him, Captain Mitchell? I call him the stepfather who thought a house fire would destroy the evidence. Instead, it exposed everything he'd been hiding for 3 years. Everyone thinks this story is about inheritance and greed, but that's not where this fire started. The real fire started the day Richard Thornton married my mother and began systematically erasing me from her life. And it ended when his own desperation burned down the lies he'd built. If you've ever watched someone steal from your family while pretending to care, you'll understand this story. Subscribe and comment where you're watching from. My name is Victoria Brennan, and I'm 34 years old. I work as a museum curator, and until 3 years ago, I had a close relationship with my mother, Linda. My father died when I was 8. Heart attack, sudden and devastating. My mother raised me alone after that. We were close. Not just mother and daughter, best friends. When she was diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer in 2021, my world stopped. The doctors gave her 18 months, maybe 2 years with aggressive treatment. I took family leave from work, moved back home to help her through it. We were going to fight this together. Then she met Richard Thornton. He was at a grief support group she attended. Charming, attentive. He'd lost his wife 2 years earlier, or so he claimed. He seemed to understand what my mother was going through in a way I couldn't. They started dating within a month. 6 months later, they were married. I should have seen the red flags then, the speed of it all, the way he inserted himself into every aspect of her life, the way he looked at her house, our house, like he was measuring its value. But my mother was dying, and Richard made her happy. Or at least, that's what I told myself. The isolation started slowly, then accelerated. Richard changed my mother's phone number to reduce stress, hired nurses who reported only to him, moved her bedroom upstairs where he could monitor visitors, got power of attorney while she was heavily medicated. Within 6 months, I was a stranger in my own mother's life. My calls went to Richard's phone. He'd answer with updates. She's sleeping. She's not feeling well today. The medication makes her confused. Better to try tomorrow. Tomorrow would come, and it would be the same story. I started showing up unannounced. Richard didn't like that. When I confronted him, he was calm, reasonable. Victoria, I'm trying to protect your mother. The doctors said stress accelerates the cancer. Your constant hovering is making things worse. Hovering? I'm her daughter. And I'm her husband. Medical decisions go through me now. He showed me the power of attorney paperwork. My mother's signature at the bottom, shaky but legible. She signed this willingly. She trusts me to make the right choices. I didn't know then that he'd gotten her to sign it while she was heavily medicated. Didn't know he'd convinced her I was too busy with work to care. The last time I saw my mother was 2 months before she died. Richard was downstairs on a phone call. I slipped into her room while the nurse was on break. My mother looked so small in that bed, 87 pounds, down from 140. Her skin was gray, but her eyes were clear when she saw me. "Victoria." Her voice was barely a whisper. "Baby, you came." "Of course I came, Mom. I've been trying to see you." "Richard said you were too busy. Said you had a new job, couldn't get away." My throat tightened. "Mom, no. I've been here. He's been blocking me." She gripped my hand with surprising strength. I know what he's doing." "Then why—" "The blue box. Victoria, remember the blue box." The Jade jewelry box from her grandmother. I'd grown up watching her keep her most precious things in it. It had a hidden compartment we used to hide notes to each other when I was little. "What about it?" "He doesn't know about the compartment. The door burst open. Richard stood there, eyes hard. "Victoria, I thought I told you your mother needed rest." "You need to leave, now." My mother tried to speak, but Richard was already at her side, adjusting her medication drip. "It's okay, Linda. You're confused. The morphine does that." He walked me to the door, his hand firm on my arm. "If you care about your mother at all, you'll stop this. Let her have peace." I never saw her alive again. Richard didn't tell me when she died. I found out 3 days later when a friend sent me the obituary link. Linda Brennan Thornton, beloved wife of Richard Thornton, passed peacefully at home. No mention of a daughter. The funeral was private, just Richard and close family, which apparently didn't include me. When I showed up anyway, Richard met me at the door. "What are you doing here?" "Burying my mother." "Your mother wanted a small service, immediate family only." "I am immediate family. I'm her daughter." "And I was her husband. I know what she wanted." He closed the door in my face. I stood outside the funeral home, listening to the service through the walls, crying alone in the parking lot. 2 weeks later, I received a letter from an attorney I'd never heard of. "Estate of Linda Brennan Thornton. You are requested to attend the reading of the will." The address was my childhood home, my mother's house. When I arrived, I barely recognized it. All the furniture was different. My mother's antique sofa, the one her grandmother brought from the old country, was gone, replaced with modern leather. The walls that had been covered with family photos were now bare except for generic art. Richard sat in the living room like he owned the place, which, apparently, he did. The attorney looked uncomfortable. "Ms. Brennan, please sit. This won't take long." He opened a folder, cleared his throat. "I, Linda Brennan Thornton, being of sound mind, leave my entire estate to my beloved husband, Richard Thornton. This includes the house, all investment accounts, life insurance policies, and personal property." I felt like I'd been punched. That can't be right. The attorney continued. "A codicil was added 3 weeks before her death, stating that Victoria Brennan is to receive nothing due to abandonment during her mother's illness." Abandonment? My voice cracked. I was blocked from seeing her. He changed her phone number. He hired nurses to keep me away. Richard's expression was perfectly crafted sympathy. "Victoria, I understand you're grieving, but your mother told me herself that you'd stopped visiting, that you were too focused on your career to spend time with her." "That's a lie." I pulled out my phone, my hands shaking. "I have text messages, emails to the nurses, photos of gifts I sent that were returned, hospital visitor logs showing I tried to visit 40 times in 2 months." The attorney glanced at the evidence, then at Richard. "The will is legal, Ms. Brennan, witnessed by 2 registered nurses in Mr. Thornton's employ." In his employ. Don't you see? He controlled everything. Who she saw, who she talked to, what she was told. Richard stood, walking to the window. "I'm sorry you feel this way, Victoria. Your mother loved you. She was just hurt by your absence." "How much?" I asked the attorney. "Excuse me?" "How much is the estate worth?" The attorney referred to his documents. "The house is valued at $1.8 million. Investment accounts total approximately $900,000. Life insurance policies are $750,000. Personal property, jewelry, and heirlooms are estimated at $50,000. The total estate is approximately $3.5 million. All of it going to Richard, a man who'd known my mother for less than 3 years. "You have 30 days to contest," the attorney said. "Though I should warn you, these cases are expensive and rarely successful when the will is properly witnessed." I made $52,000 a year as a museum curator. I didn't have the money to fight this. Richard walked me to the door. "I know this is difficult, but your mother made her wishes clear. I hope, in time, you can find peace with her decision." "Where's the blue box?" I asked suddenly. His expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. "What box?" "My mother's jewelry box. Jade, antique, from her grandmother. She kept it on her dresser for 30 years. I donated most of her things. Too painful to keep around." "You donated a priceless family heirloom?" "It was just a box, Victoria. Surely you're not going to fight over that, too." But I knew. The way he said it, the way he wouldn't meet my eyes. He still had it. And whatever my mother put in that hidden compartment, he didn't want me to find it. I hired a private investigator named Marcus Webb, who specialized in elder abuse cases. "I'll be honest," Marcus said. "These are hard to prove, but if he isolated her, coerced her, there might be a case." 2 weeks later, Marcus came back with evidence. "Both nurses who witnessed the will were fired 1 week after your mother died," he said, spreading documents across my kitchen table. "Both got $10,000 severance payments. One agreed to talk off the record. She says Richard coerced her. Your mother was on morphine, barely conscious when she signed." He showed me bank statements. Richard transferred $400,000 from her accounts in the 3 months before her death. He claimed medical expenses, but hospice only cost $18,000. He bought a Tesla and a Rolex with the rest. My hands shook as I looked at the evidence. $400,000, while my mother was dying. Will it hold up in court? Maybe, but you need money for lawyers. We're talking $100,000 minimum for a full probate challenge. Money I didn't have. "There's something else," Marcus said. "Richard just announced he's selling the house. Estate sale is in 2 weeks. Once that money's liquid, it'll be a lot harder to claw back." I walked into my childhood home and felt like I was at a stranger's garage sale. Everything was tagged with prices. My mother's antique sofa, $800. The piano I'd learned to play on, $3,000. Family photo albums and boxes, $5 each. People milled around, picking through my memories like bargain hunters at a flea market. Richard stood near the entrance, greeting people like a gracious host. When he saw me, his smile didn't waver. "Victoria, I didn't expect to see you here." "This is my mother's house." "Was your mother's house. I'm moving on, starting fresh." I walked through the rooms, my chest tight. In the kitchen, I saw my mother's recipe box, 50 years of handwritten cards, tagged at $20. I bought it, paid cash, held it like it might disappear. Then I noticed Richard checking his watch. Nervous. He kept glancing at the stairs. The sale was confined to the first floor. Signs everywhere. Second floor closed. What was he hiding up there? I waited until late afternoon when the crowd thinned. Richard was distracted, negotiating over the dining table. I slipped upstairs. The hallway was dark. Most rooms were empty, furniture already gone, but the master bedroom door was closed, locked. Through the crack at the bottom, I saw light. He'd been up here recently. I heard footsteps behind me. Richard. "The second floor is off limits." "Why? What are you hiding?" "I'm not hiding anything. I just haven't finished clearing it yet. Now please leave before I have you removed." I left, but I didn't go far. I parked down the street and waited. The sale ended around 7 p.m. People cleared out by 7:30. Richard left at 8:45. But at 9:30, I saw lights turn on in the second floor. Richard's car was back in the driveway. Through the window, I could see him moving frantically, carrying boxes, looking panicked. I called 911. "There's suspicious activity at a house. I think someone might be destroying property." Then I saw the smoke. Thin gray wisps at first, curling from the second floor window. Then thick black clouds. Richard stumbled out the front door, coughing, empty-handed. The house was burning. Fire trucks arrived within minutes. Captain Mitchell's crew moved fast, pulling hoses, assessing the structure. Richard stood on the lawn, covered in soot, hands shaking. "I was just checking the house one last time, making sure everything was secure before closing. The wiring must have shorted. Old house, you know. It just went up so fast." Captain Mitchell approached him. "Sir, where did the fire start?" "Upstairs, the master bedroom. I think it was electrical." One of the firefighters emerged from the house. "Captain, this wasn't electrical. We detected accelerant, gasoline." Richard's face went white. I stepped forward from the crowd that had gathered. "He was destroying evidence." Richard spun. "Victoria, what are you?" "He was burning documents. He knew I was investigating the will. He knew it was fraud." Captain Mitchell looked between us. "Ma'am, I need you to explain what's happening here." So I did. Standing on the lawn of my childhood home while smoke poured from the windows, I told Captain Mitchell everything. About my mother's cancer, about Richard isolating her, about the will signed while she was on morphine, about the money he'd stolen, about the blue jewelry box she'd told me to find. "He's been covering his tracks for 3 years," I said, "and tonight he was burning the last of the evidence." Richard's voice was desperate now. "That's insane. I loved Linda. Everything I did was to protect her." "From her own daughter? You abandoned her!" "You made her think I abandoned her. You intercepted every call, every visit, every attempt I made to see her. You isolated a dying woman from her only child so you could steal her money." One of the firefighters approached Captain Mitchell, carrying a metal safe. "Captain, we found this in the closet. Locked, but the fire didn't touch it. Fireproof." Richard lunged forward. "That's mine, personal property." Captain Mitchell held up a hand. "Sir, this is evidence now. We need to verify there's nothing hazardous inside." The safe was opened by the fire department crew using bolt cutters. Inside, the blue jewelry box. Jade, antique, exactly as I remembered. A document with "Last Will and Testament of Linda Brennan" typed at the top, different from the one Richard's attorney had read. A sealed envelope addressed to me in my mother's handwriting. Bank statements, dozens of them, pages and pages of my mother's signature, practiced, copied, forged. Captain Mitchell looked at Richard. "Sir, you need to start explaining." "I don't have to explain anything to you." "Actually, you do. You just committed arson, and based on what's in this safe, possibly fraud and elder abuse." Richard's composure finally cracked. "She was going to leave me nothing. After everything I did for her, I took care of her. I earned that money." "You took care of her for 18 months after knowing her for 6 months," I said quietly. "I was her daughter for 34 years. Who really earned her trust?" Police arrived. Captain Mitchell handed over the safe's contents as evidence. Richard was arrested on the lawn. arson, fraud, elder abuse. As they put him in the patrol car, he looked at me one last time. "You're going to regret this." "No," I said. "You are." The blue jewelry box had a hidden compartment, just like I remembered. Inside was a USB drive. At the police station, they let me watch the videos with an officer present. My mother appeared on screen. Thin, pale, but clear-eyed. The timestamp showed 3 months before her death. "Victoria, if you're seeing this, I'm gone, and Richard did something to my will." She explained everything. How he changed her number, how he controlled the nurses, how he told her I was too busy to visit. "I tried to tell my lawyer, but Richard monitors everything. I'm recording this while he's at the store. I hid it in the blue box because I knew you'd remember." She held up a document, her real will, the one leaving everything to me. The USB drive held 4 videos total. In each one, she documented Richard's abuse, his threats, his manipulation, his theft. In one, she read from bank statements, her voice shaking. "Richard transferred $80,000 last week. He said it was for medical equipment, but I never saw any equipment." In the final video, recorded 1 week before she died, she looked directly at the camera. "He forged my signature. I saw the will. It's not my handwriting, but it's close. He must have practiced." Victoria, if you're seeing this, fight him. Use these videos. Use the real will in the blue box. Don't let him win. Richard Thornton was convicted of elder abuse, financial exploitation, forgery, and arson. He was sentenced to 8 years in prison. The fraudulent will was thrown out. My mother's real will, the one she'd made with her actual attorney, was validated. The estate was restored to me. $3.5 million. The house, everything. I sold the house. Too many painful memories. Too much of Richard's presence staining the walls. With the money, I established the Linda Brennan Foundation for Elder Abuse Victims. We fund legal aid for families fighting inheritance fraud. We train medical professionals to recognize isolation tactics. We provide support for people trying to protect elderly relatives from predators. My mother's Jade bracelet sits in a display case at the Foundation's office, a reminder of why we exist. The blue jewelry box sits on my mantle at home. I keep the USB drive inside, not in the hidden compartment. I want it visible, a reminder that the truth doesn't burn, no matter how much someone wants it to.
That was Victoria Brennan. I'm Captain Dean Mitchell, Station 47. We got the call at 9:47 p.m. Structure fire, residential neighborhood, possible arson. When we arrived, the homeowner claimed faulty wiring, but my crew found accelerant within minutes, gasoline, deliberate. What Richard Thornton didn't know was that the safe he was trying to destroy was fireproof. Everything inside survived, the real will, the bank statements, the videos of a dying woman trying to protect her daughter from a con artist. I've been fighting fires for 18 years. I've learned that some people would rather burn everything than let the truth come out. Richard married a dying woman, isolated her from her daughter, forged documents, stole hundreds of thousands of dollars, and then tried to destroy the evidence when he got caught. He thought fire was his solution, but fire reveals as much as it destroys. Victoria spent 3 years being told she abandoned her mother, being erased from her own family, watching a predator steal everything while pretending to be a loving husband. And when he tried to burn the proof, he just made it permanent evidence. Sometimes the worst fires aren't the ones that burn buildings. They're the ones that burn families, the lies, the manipulation, the theft disguised as love. Victoria's mother knew what was happening. She couldn't stop it directly. She was too weak, too controlled. But she left breadcrumbs, a hidden compartment, a USB drive, the truth preserved for when her daughter could finally find it. Because some truths are worth protecting, even from the grave. I'm Captain Dean Mitchell, Station 47. Stay safe out there.